Hello, I'm Lynn Gilmartin and welcome to Melbourne, Australia. We are on the banks of the Yarra River at Crown Casino, the home of Asia's biggest, richest and best poker tournament series. What a lineup we have in the Aussie Millions $250,000 challenge. $4 million is up for grabs, but only 3 players will share it.
Here are our final table lists chasing that big money prize. In seat 1, it's Tony the Lizard Bloom, betting guru and football club chairman. In seat 2, high-stakes specialist Patrick Antonius from Finland. In seat 3 is young Dan Smith from the United States. In seat 4, the ever unpredictable Great Dane Gus Hansen. In seat 5, from Canada, this is Sorrel Mitzi. Seat 6 contains big money specialist Winfred Yu. And in seat 7, it is Daniel Negreanu, one of the poster boys of poker. And in seat 8, Phil Ivey, widely recognised as the best player in the world. Riding high, Gus Hansen and Phil Ivey. Sorrel Mitzi still with 219,000, but he is at the bottom of the heap so far.
Small blind there, thanks.
Blinds at 6 and 12,000. Mitzi will need to move sooner rather than later. Phil Ivey will be doing something with his kings. How sneaky does he want to be? Not too sneaky, pumps it up to 30,000. On the button, Tony Bloom, a suited King Jack.
I waited like extra 2 minutes and I was like, wow.
He decides it's worth casting a BDI over a flop, as long as Antonius will let him, of course.
You were happy I called it.
I counted down from 60 and like 60.
He makes the call with the deuces. Dan Smith wants nothing to do with this one, so 3 of the big names in poker going to see a flop.
3 players.
And it is Antonius who picks up a set of deuces. Ivy has a strong flush draw and the overpair. Tony Bloom, I suggest, will take no further part in this one. With that gold salamander sitting on his cards. That's the source of his nickname, the Lizard. And he scuttles off into the undergrowth, leaving Antonius to make a call or a raise. It's a draw-heavy board. So
All in.
well, I say, he may raise. He goes all in. Ivy's got plenty of chips and immediately makes the call. Antonius is the player in danger. But right now, Ivy is in danger of losing half his chips. A pot of over $1 million. Needs to hit a king or a spade. Can't do it, so Antonius is the player who doubles through. You wouldn't guess it by looking at him, but Phil Ivey has a rare burst of emotion there. A look of vague disappointment while he watches his great friend stack the chips that were his. Top 3 get paid. Blinds 6 and 12. Sorrel Mitzi in the lilac t-shirt gets out of the way. Ivy just had that heavy reverse. Doesn't want to play a suited 10-9. Certainly see him play a lot worse than that and play it brilliantly.
Raised to 30,000.
This time Bloom the aggressor. Dan Smith in the baseball cap. Good hand in blackjack. Not so good in poker. Gus Hansen. He's been getting a lot of massages. Almost looks like he's having his head pushed into his chips.
Check a bet.
Well, he may get a few more chips to stack in front of him now, because they've both hit a pair. Crucially, Hansen's is bigger. He checks back to Bloom. And the Englishman makes this a richer price, 37,000. Even the masseur seems to have stopped for the moment, gripped by the excitement unfolding in front of him.
Cool.
Hansen makes the call. They both have two pairs.
Check.
Hansen way out in front. Once again he checks back to Bloom.
Check.
But Bloom cagey enough to put no more in the middle. Hansen's last chance to make anything from this pot. And while he gets a pummeling, he considers how much to put in the middle.
61.
Just over 60,000. Well, no shame in folding for Tony Bloom here. He doesn't have a great stack in front of him.
Cool.
But it has just got a bit smaller, because Gus says, I've got a 10,
An eight.
and that 10 good enough to win this one. Gus happy about the win, or perhaps the whoop from a lady in the crowd.
12 to go.
Winfred Yu, one of the biggest faces in the poker scene in Macau,
Raised to 27 and a half.
is making this one more expensive.
Fold.
Negreanu folds the fives.
Fold.
Antonius will not fold the kings. Just finishing his salad. He's gulping that down, and soon he will be hoping to gulp up Winifred Yu's remaining chips.
Cool.
Flat call. Nice and sneaky from Antonius. And as long as Sorrel Mitzi gets out of the way, there'll be heads up, but Sorrel Mitzi has a big ace. Already in for the big blind, and now he's all in.
Fold.
Good fold there from
Call.
Winfred
We have
Yu,
no one call.
but Antonius of course going nowhere with the kings. 3-1 favourite to win this one. No ace there. Backdoor club draw for Sorrel Mitzi, but Antonius has increased his chances of winning this one. That makes it interesting. Any club, any ace, as our TD tells us, and it is a club. Well, you don't just have to be good, you've got to be lucky too.
Yep.
And Sorrel Mitzi certainly was there. 4 clubs on the board to let him get out of jail there.
Cool. Cool, cool.
Jack 10 in spades for Tony.
Raised to 28,000.
Antonius folding and going for a stroll perhaps. No, just reaching for more salad.
Cool. Yeah.
Gus calls with the sixes. Sorrel Mitzi
28.
has a decent hand, king queen. It's off suit, action in front of him. Already has money invested in the pot. He's the small blind. Winfred Yu jumps overboard.
Players.
So three-handed. Plenty of variety and all of them with a decent shot at this. That changes, of course, with the flop. It is Bloom who goes out in front.
Check.
No one has any hearts. Not the worst flop you'll ever see for sixes.
50,500.
Back to Sorrel Mitzi.
Fold.
He folds, but Tony Bloom has top pair. Backdoor flush opportunities. And he says all in, puts the pressure back on Gus. Gus is counting the chips out. Does he doubt Tony Bloom? Does he think there's enough in there to justify this hefty call? The longer this takes, the happier Tony is.
You can take a card from that deck, red I call.
And Gus does fold. Wants to muck his cards with Tony's. Still 8 players, 3 get paid. Bloom, early position, folds the king 5. Round to Dan Smith, our youngest contender. Wants nothing to do with king 4. Gus pumps it up, a healthy raise with the connectors.
Who's all in?
But Sorrel Mitzi moves his remaining 234,000 chips into the middle. Too much for Winfred Yu. Negron, who has 8s.
234,000.
Plenty of chips in front of him. He may want to raise here to isolate Mitzi. They just don't perform too well four-handed. Well, they don't perform at all because he's decided to credit Mitzi with a decent hand. Now it's Gus with the decision. Really just has 10 high. Well, it looks like he thinks he's got live cards at least. And he does make the call. And he's not unhappy. Certainly not way behind. And it is Sorrel Mitzi who must sweat this one. Wow. Well, that's the way to do it. Flop a straight. 2 hearts for Sorrel Mitzi.
Two, by the way, if we played.
And Sorrel Mitzi does double through. Daniel's delighted because it saved him some money. Nothing going Gus's way right now. And Mitzi back up around $500,000. Winfred Yu arriving just in time to get his cards. Sorrel Mitzi this time has a genuine Group 1 hand.
Right, 40,000.
And Winfred Yu's sprint was in vain. And he wanders off again. Negranu saw him fold the 8s. He just saw Mitzi make an all-in raise with Ace-5 of hearts. Maybe he doesn't credit him this time. He's going to find that he's wrong. That's if it gets that far, because Dan Smith has pocket queens. Plenty in the middle already. Could be a shove. Talking of two ladies, here come a couple of fans of Phil Ivey. We finally found a way to distract him at the poker table.
Well then,
Dan Smith in no way distracted.
coach.
Yes.
Mitzi folded the Ace-King,
Good news. Yeah, I guess you did.
but Daniel going nowhere with his King-9.
Got a king?
And it looks like a good decision. Mitzi may not be so happy. He'd have made 2 pair. A 10 would do this. The girls are back. People can barely watch the cards on the table, but believe me, they're worth watching. No clubs, so Dan Smith leaves the table. His queen's defeated by Negranu's King-9. Down to 7.
2K.
Two dealers at the table, one shuffling, one dealing to make sure the pace is kept up. Tony Bloom, Ace-8 offsuit, short stacked, in they go, keeping only the lizard back to protect his cards. Gus Hansen not fancying the Ace-5, but Sorrel Mitzi surely will get involved. We saw him fold Ace-King, but he's not going to fold Jacks. Not to a short stack shove this time.
Call.
Flat call.
We have an all-in call on the feature table. Tony Bloom's moved all in Sorrel as he makes the call.
And
Jack 10,
a set of jacks straight out. Still vague ways for Tony Bloom to escape, but he'll need to hit this turn card hard. He seems fairly resigned. Well, that's one way out of it. Now a king.
King for Tony will do. Let's see the river. The 6 of spades on the river.
It's a full house instead for Sorrel Mitzi, and Tony Bloom misses out on his chance of that $2 million first prize. Instead, it is Sorrel Mitzi who climbs to the top of the leaderboard. Negranu second, Winfred Yu in peril. Really has very little fold equity now. He'll need to get busy and need to get lucky. Yu will be forced to go all in almost without looking at his cards quite soon. Antonius doesn't fancy it. Gus with 9-7, but he knows that the player to his left, Winfred Yu, may come over the top here, and no better hand to do it with really in this situation. Ace-10 certainly powerful enough. In it goes, and Daniel priced in to make this call. 300,000 and chump change in the middle. This would be a lovely double up for you. But Daniel Negranu has written this script. Trip 8s. and Winfried Yu almost drawing dead. And that is it for Winfried Yu. Good performance, but couldn't quite make the top echelons of this table. Handshakes all round. 5 players remain, so we're 1 away from the bubble. They've all invested $250,000 Aussie dollars. 3 of them will make a profit, 2 of them will make a loss. Ivy raises with the 10s. Antonius gets out of the way. Gus folds. Sorrel Mitzi, well, he's taken a few knocks to his chip stack. He was leading, now he's down below $500,000. And he says all in with the 9s. This will be a snap call, I think, from Phil Ivey. The all in and the call, and Phil Ivey better than 4-1 to win this. So Sorrel Mitzi, he built the tower. It's about to come tumbling down unless he can spike a 9. Well, the one thing that Ivey doesn't want now is a 10. Sorrel Mitzi also has the club draw. We've seen some unlikely escapes in this exciting tournament. What will the river bring? Well, there's no Harry Houdiniac for Sorrel Mitzi. He's been up and he's down, but now he's out. Bubble time at the $250,000 buy-in tournament at the Aussie Millions. One of these players will get nothing. What a lineup we have. You really can't imagine there's a better game of poker going on anywhere in the world. Hansen, Antonius, Negreanu, Ivey. Phil Ivey, 71,000 a call. Has Hansen dominated. Here comes the flop. Middle pair for Phil Ivey. A gut shot draw for Hansen. He'd need the 10. Although that itself would open up some opportunities for Phil Ivey. As it is, the 5 is a blank. Ivey still leads. 2 flush draws out there. He checks. Hansen sticks a chunky bet in there. Ivey, second pair. No reads from that face. But Ivey seems to have picked something up, because he's asking Hansen for a count. And he does make the raise. He wants to put Gus all in. There's really no way Gus can call that. So another master stroke from the man widely regarded as the best poker player ever.
Please can't help it. Sounds like he's hurting.
Gus, the happiest man ever to lose a lot of chips. It is going to be gutting, even though these players have made lost and then made again millions in their careers. Bubbling here would hurt. 800,000 for third place, nothing for fourth place. Plus you've got to fancy there are some bragging rights here. They've known each other for years, they've played together for years. It's almost like a home game. Patrick Antonius has made the flush. Phil Ivey has second pair. This is one home game I wouldn't want to walk into. But Ivy is walking into trouble here. He's cooled with the queen. How much will Antonius invest? 80,000. That does have the look of a value bet, but these guys are playing meta poker. All the normal signals and indications go haywire at this level. They're operating at the absolute peak of poker. And Antonius does get his reward. Shows the golf bag full of clubs and drags in an extra 80,000 with that last bet. Nine hours in, blinds at 25 and 50,000. Big enough to make a dent in even the biggest of these stacks. You got 500,000, you've essentially got 10 big blinds. Antonius picks up the fish hooks on the button. 100,000 to go. Min raise. Negreanu has a bullet and an 8. He's putting all his chips together. And he is tapis, as they say. He's all in for 768 and all in and call. So, Negreanu in danger of bubbling here. It's a big, big re-raise. He needs to hit an ace. No help from him on the board. No help at all. It'll have to be an ace, or else Daniel Negreanu has stumbled out of this big tournament, and that's the way it is. Daniel Negreanu still had around 800,000 chips, still very much in it, but he bubbles for nothing. And these three guys can breathe a sigh of relief. Three players left. The minimum they can go home with is 800,000 Aussie dollars. Now, for many tournaments, that would be first prize. Here is third prize. And actually, the buy-in for this tournament, $250,000. That wouldn't be a shabby first prize in most tournaments. But with this particular lineup, you fancy that it's about more than just the money. Ivy, Hansen, Antonius. It's more about climbing up the all-time money list, adding yet another trophy to the cabinet, and also being able to rib each other. Hansen has top pair, Ivy has bottom two pairs. Dangerous for Gus. But these pots build quick, and Phil Ivey says all in. All in and call from Gus. Now Gus, he's in peril here. Hates what he sees.
Call on feature table.
Needs to hit a king or an 8. Running clubs would also help him.
Jack of spades on the turn.
And that is a full house for Phil Ivey. Just a king now. No dice. And there it is. Gus Hansen beaten by quite a Gus Hansen looking hand. Jack 4. So this ain't going to last too long. Tighten your seatbelts. We are heads up. Two great players left in the hunt for the $2 million first prize, and it couldn't really be much more even. Phil Ivey just a nose in front of Patrick Antonius. This one is going to be compelling. Blinds at 30 and 60,000. The champagne already on the table. Antonius raises with a genuine hand. Heads up, any two cards are playable. Even 4 deuce off suit. And Ivey makes the call. The flop gives him a gut shot straight draw and a club draw, albeit a dismal one. It gives Patrick Antonius top 2. So impassive. The big Scandinavian lets his hands do the talking. 150,000. Difference between first place and second place is $800,000. Ivey raises now. An all in is not an impossibility here. We saw 4th and 3rd place go very quickly. This could be a short heads up. All in, and really hard for Ivey to call here. It's such a low club draw, and he does fold. So it is first blood to Patrick Antonius. The trophy glistening on the table, and Patrick Antonius will be pretty happy to see a suited ace on the button. These pots build fast. Ivey also has a pretty decent hand. He makes the call. Ivey makes top pair. Antonius pretty much missed, but check check may lure him into investing if Ivey bets. Check check again. And that is a pair of 8s for Antonius. So little action beforehand. He might be excused for making this call. That's how it pans out, and Ivey will turn over the cowboy and get a few of his chips back from that previous hand. They are friends, but you wouldn't know it from the way they're eyeballing each other over the felt. Queen 8 on the button. It's a raising hand. And Ivey happy to call with the connectors. 2 clubs on the table.
Check.
Phil Ivey the only one with a club.
Check.
Nobody really got anything there. And that hasn't changed the picture a great deal. Antonius still healthily in front.
Check.
We will go to a river card. So nobody's connected with this board. It goes check, check, and Antonius will find that his queen is good. No real damage there, though, to Phil Ivey. Approaching the 10-hour mark. These guys are earning their corn. 10 hours of pressure, knowing that you've invested $250,000. Ace-4 against King Jack. We could see a raise here from Ivey. Instead, he satisfies himself with a call. Something for everybody there. Jacks for Antonius. Aces for Ivey. He checks back at the Scandinavian. Who obligingly shoves in 125,000. Which Ivey matches. The deuce looks pretty blank to both players.
Check.
Ivey gives Antonius another chance to invest, but he declines the responsibility, and Ivey's hand improves on the river, 2 pairs. This time he may bet.
300.
And it is 300,000.
Pause.
Antonius doubts him. He ain't going to be happy because Ivey does have a made hand here. Ace-4s. $100,000 in the middle with blinds and antes before we even start.
125.
And Antonius enriches the booty in the middle. He will find a customer, I fancy. Phil Ivey with a suited King Jack in spades. Ivey noticeably has the bigger chip stack now, and that's a pretty perfect flop for King Jack. Smallish, tempting bet into the middle. Antonius raises. He'll be trying to find out exactly where he is. Has given himself an escape route if Ivey does come over the top. And it is a smallish re-raise. Antonius, remember, has hit absolutely nothing. And he's just playing on his instincts about Phil Ivey, a man he knows just about as well as anyone. So they've both invested a healthy chunk into this pot. Antonius whiffs again. He's now drawing dead. This time Ivey shows what to a normal human being would be seen as weakness, but at this level of poker is pregnant with meaning. How will Antonius interpret it? Another small, sneaky looking bet, but this pot over $1 million now.
All in.
Phil Ivey shoves all in. Antonius, you've got to say he can't call, but and that's how it pans out. So Phil Ivey winning a huge one there. No conversation, almost no emotion on the table while that played out, but it was a huge, huge pot and may go some way to determining which of these players earns that $2 million first prize here at the Aussie Millions. Patrick's found a king, he's all in. Phil Ivey will not hesitate obviously to call, and the cards turn over. Antonius is in trouble. He'll need to spike a king and dodge an ace. Well, as it is, he's picked up a 3, so he does go in front. Ooh, but there's the queen now for Phil Ivey. So Antonius drawing thin. 3 or a king. And it is neither, so we have a winner. $2 million richer, as if he needed it. It is Phil Ivey.
What an incredible victory for Phil Ivey. After taking a break from poker, it's great to see him back. That's it from us tonight. Join us again next time for more history in the making in the Aussie Millions 10th anniversary main event.